All right. Welcome back to the Blue Chip Breakdown, Vols. Excuse me, Vols fans. Sorry about that, man. I've got the hiccups. It's something pretty serious, so I'm going to try to make this one pretty quick. I said that I was going to come back, and I had to get done with my nephew's championship game, so I just got back to the house, and wanted to kind of share some of my thoughts with what I saw in that game today. Excuse me. Obviously. We just, I don't know what happened. I mean, we played terrible. Linebackers were horrific. All of them, every single one of them. Every single linebacker that played today just played absolutely terrible. The offense didn't do great. I have not watched the film back, but from what I saw just watching it live, it felt like the offensive line didn't get any push. It felt like we kind of got manhandled on both fronts, which is something that I never would have thought was going to happen in this game. I don't know what's going on. I'm not calling for anybody to get fired, but I will say that Coach Heupel is definitely going to have to figure out what's going on with him to, just be able to, lose these types of games, because it seems like if you look at his tenure as a head coach, period, not even just with us, but just period, he's good for losing at least one game every single season that his team should not lose. This was one, and this is a season that we lost to. Florida was another one. Like Florida, after that Florida game, P and I got on here, and P's not going to be with us today because he had to get his kids back to the house. We've had a very, very long day, but said after that Florida game, I was like, this is a loss that we're going to look back on, and it's going to haunt us because it was way better than Florida. I haven't listened to anybody's post game thoughts or nothing. Haven't watched any football since the end of our game. Kind of heard some stuff as I'm coming back home from, going and coming back home from my nephew's games. And I think that LSU lost. And actually, we didn't have that in our tailgate show, but that was a game that I thought that LSU could lose. And I felt like, okay, if Florida goes out here and beats LSU, everyone's been crowning them, it's going to make Tennessee look better. I know that Georgia won. I don't know what the final score was. Sounds like they were pretty dominant in that game. So, us winning today would have been good for us, but in the grand scheme of what P and I would have wanted, it would not have really made a difference in that sense of it. But long story short, we played horrible, absolutely horrible. Like I said, the offensive line did not do a good job at all. We did not, we were not able to run the football like what we thought, and we did not stop the run. We talked about that stretch play that they were going to try to run, and so I know that they knew about it, and somehow we can't stop it. Couple of things to kind of throw out there too. Seems like we have some guys banged up. I don't know what's going on with Big O, but he didn't play, I want to say, in the first 2 or 3 series. That's very concerning. Why is he coming out late? And then once he got in, he didn't play well. And on top of that, it just seems like a lot of guys were getting hurt. And I don't know what's going on. Like, what are we doing to be getting hurt the way that we're getting hurt? Where so many people kept going out. I just feel like there's a lot of things that this team is going to need to we have to take a long, hard look in that mirror and figure out what the hell is going on here. We came a long way, right? This is a far cry from what we was before Coach Heupel. So again, I'm not calling for anybody's head, but we've got to get some things figured out. Okay, I think maybe Coach Heupel is a little bit too much of a players coach. I've heard some stuff in that players lounge with some of the players just talking about how Coach Heupel kind of lets them spend a lot of time with their families on some of these games where we're traveling, and that's great. But maybe we need to tone that back some. You know what I mean? Like maybe we need to bring it back in, really back in. We've got to be more dialed in on these road games. That was not a hostile place. We all watched that game. We heard it. I mean, that crowd played no factor in that game. I don't feel like there was any, necessarily. I don't feel like the referees had a big impact on that game. I feel like they called it pretty evenly. We just went out there and we got whipped. We got whipped by a team that we're way better than. I mean, way better than. So very, very frustrated. And, like I said, linebackers played terrible. I don't know what the defensive game plan was. It seems like early on we were able to get some pressure on Brady Cook, but after that, man, it just I don't know. I don't. It felt like we're playing too much of. We're not going to let them beat us deep. We'll let them dink and dunk us down the field, and I mean that just pretty much took over that entire game. We'll let them dink and dunk us, and then we let them run the football on. So I just think that the game plan on defense was horrible, and I was concerned. After a couple of our games, just looking at okay, we've got to stop one person, but that should not have meant that everything else like that the offense should not be as successful as they have been. And we've got to do a much better job since Haddon has gone down. We've seen we see how big of a difference that makes. And there was a lot of Tennessee fans that did not like Haddon, and he is by far our best cover guy. Don't know what's going on with T-Mac. Have not had an opportunity to look and see what's going on with him. I hope that he's okay. We kind of talked about he was going to have a rough day playing at that star because Mizzou likes to target that spot, that slot spot. So him going down early, and then we get Thomas in, and he just did not look good at all. And I mean, just so many things. Just I'm rattling off the top of my head. Very, very frustrated, very disappointed, almost to the point of being angry. And I would say I'm probably at the point of being angry. I'm probably it's gonna be tough for me to be able to sleep tonight. So this is a way for me to kind of try to cope. And just very, very frustrated. I see Olga is in the house. Oh man, he says hi blue chip. That game didn't go well at all. Yeah, so I know there's probably not a lot of people up right now. I'm definitely not expecting that. I wanted to get this out because I said that we would be able to come out, and my nephew's game kind of ran over, so we was not able to get out as early as we wanted to. And like I said, Pete's not going to be joining us, but we've got a lot of things to get fixed. And as far as who's going to be coming back next season, that's something that P and I was talking about. I feel like everybody needs to come back. There's nobody on this team right now that I think is an NFL player. And I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't think that Joe Milton played bad. He had some overthrows. Again, I'm going off of the cusp. Have not rewatched that film. Just from what I saw live, I don't feel like he played a terrible game. I don't think that we lost this game because of Joe Milton. But so hopefully he can get an opportunity to go pro. I didn't see a whole lot of Castles. Don't really understand why. I think that this is a game that the coaching staff felt overly confident in, and we said, hey, okay, so guys who maybe haven't gotten enough burn or enough love, we're going to give the football to them. We're going to let them play more, some seniors and all that. And that's great, but this was not the game for that. Do that up against Vandy or up against somebody else. And, I want the best for all of our players, for everyone that's a part of this team. But at the first thing that we need to do, I was going to say at the end of the day, but at the start of the day, we need to come out to try to win a daggone ball game first. So I don't care if these guys are seniors, redshirt seniors, COVID year seniors, 5th, 6th, 7th year seniors. If they're not the best players, they don't need to be playing. We've got to play our best guys. I don't feel like we did that today. And again, I feel like we were just overconfident and just a lot of stuff. I felt like we kind of was sleepwalking. We just didn't have that edge today for whatever reason. I almost want to say maybe Big O. I don't know if he's banged up or what. I mean, if you know, and if you're watching, let me know inside of the comment section if y'all know what's going on with Big O. But he didn't play for those first few series. I feel like with him kind of being close to home, he's from Memphis. Maybe he, spent the night out on the town or something. I'm purely speculating. I don't want to paint a bad picture of Big O. I think he's a really good guy, but again, I'm just speculating as a fan. It seems like maybe he spent the night out on the town. A couple of his teammates went out with him, and they came into the game hungover or something. I mean, that's how it feels. Like that's how it felt. It felt like we were very lackadaisical. We did not get up for this game by any means, and Missouri is a team that we are so much better than in every single facet of the game. We just went out there and we underperformed tremendously. So biggest thing is, I put that on the coaching staff. Yeah, I don't know at what point there was an issue, but there was an issue somewhere with the coaching staff. So got to get a whole lot of things cleaned up. Obviously playoffs is way out of the picture. Everything pretty much is out of the picture. I think, New Year's Six Bowl is probably out of the picture. But we still have to go out. We still, we got 2 more games left in the regular season. We're going to have a bowl game. We've got to try to win out. We've got a big game up against Georgia. It'd be great to try to spoil their season, with a win. I don't know what Brock Bowers did. I did see him early on in that game. Looks like he was playing. So he's going to be playing. It'd be nice to shut him down. It'd be nice to come out and be able to shut down an entire offense and not focus on just one facet of their game or not just one player. Let's shut down an entire offense. Let's go out there and let's play real defense. Let's get our offense going the way that it's supposed to get going. Felt like in that first drive for us on offense, we throw the ball out to Jalen Wright, and he had a horrible game. I mean, just terrible. Throw it out to him, try to get him going. And then we run the ball 2 more times after that. I felt like that was kind of like a feeler. We're trying to feel them out and see what they're doing. Disagree with that. Don't like that because we didn't come out and execute very well on the following drive. And I think that Mizzou had the ball for like that entire first quarter after that drive. It's just like a lot of bonehead stuff, just a whole lot of bonehead stuff. I also happy to see Coach Heupel punting that football and, kind of doing some of those things. But, Dante Thornton went down. Hopefully he's okay. Hopefully he's going to be able to come back. And, kind of talked about this early on. For those of you who was not here for that portion of it, what I said early on is, I don't feel like any of our players right now are NFL players and that they all need to come back if they can. They all need to spend at least one more year if they want to make it to the NFL or, maybe they just want to be done playing football. Some of those guys are done playing football as far as I am concerned. And, again, I'm not trying to be negative or, I don't want to be hard or I'm trying to think of the correct way to say this. We have got to perform. And I just don't feel like we did. And some of those guys are not, maybe they're just not capable of it. Maybe they just don't love the game as much as they should. And some of these guys won't be welcome back next season. That's just what it is. I think that it's time for some fresh blood. And, the quitting and, all that soft stuff, that's not Tennessee football. That's not who we are. And I just don't feel like we have any room for anyone like that on our entire roster. Again, I don't care how old you are, how long you've been in this program. If you're not going to give your all for Tennessee, you don't need to be playing for us, period. And I'm just coming to y'all real. Hey, Deborah. And so Deborah says, Hobble, sad night. Yes, it is a very, very sad night. Very frustrating, but we still have to go out here and we still have to play. I fully expect for Knoxville, for Neyland to be rocking once UGA comes to town. I'm going to take a look at the film tonight. I'll probably be up all night. I don't know if I can sleep because I'm just so, I don't know, just frustrated, pissed off. But I am going to watch the film. I'm going to break it down. I might have a video out for y'all tomorrow. I'm going to work on that. And, we'll figure out what we can do to try to come out here and have some success up against Georgia. I still think that this team is capable of going out and getting a win versus Georgia, especially at home. But obviously we can't play anything like what we did today. I mean, that was embarrassing. But, P and I, and my dad and my mom, we all went out to my nephew's game with our orange on, baby. We're not fair weather fans by any means. We are going to ride and die with this team. So, that's pretty much it. I don't have a whole lot more to add to it than that. I just wanted to kind of get those thoughts out and, said that I was going to do it. I am a man of my word. And like I said, I'm going to take a look at that film, figure out where we messed up at. And I'm going to come back probably tomorrow with a video. If not tomorrow, then Monday for sure. But something else, again, I said this at the start of this, but just to close it out, our linebackers played horrifically. And I'm talking about Aaron Beasley, too. I don't know what – and I did see us blitzing him more. But, he just looked terrible. A lot of the guys on our front looked bad in their run fits. Didn't do a good job of maintaining or, moving with the gaps, on those stretch plays and things like that. Just horrible. Let's see what Deborah has to say right here. Deborah says, "How can we have the best rushers and get shut down?" Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so she says running back. She means, yeah. Yeah. So Deborah, you might not have been here for that part of it, but I just said that it looks like our offensive line got whipped up front, and I did see a couple of plays where Cooper Mays, of all people, looked like he was getting pushed around. How that happens up against this defense, I have absolutely no idea. I have no idea. It's I have no idea. It had to have been something, off the field. It really, and again, I don't want to paint a bad picture of our guys, right? But this is just us talking. Had to have been something like they were out late last night. That's what it looked like to me. It looked like they was out partying, having a good time or something. When I don't. It's hard for me to believe some of these guys will be doing that, especially Coop. I don't see that from Coop. Maybe he was sick, maybe he's hurt. Maybe some of these guys are hurt, and I haven't heard about it. Like I said earlier, um, I haven't heard or watched any football since the end of our game. That was it. You know what I'm saying? Outside of Braves game, I haven't watched any college football. I haven't heard really much of anything. Listened to the radio just to taste, and just like heard some updates on some scores, and that was it. So what I know is sounds like Washington won. Sounds like that was a close game. I think that Florida won. Y'all let me know if I'm wrong on that. I know that Bama won. I saw that. Sounds like Georgia won. Didn't watch the end of that. And I think that Oregon and USC might still be playing. I don't know if that game is over with or what. I don't know what the score is to that game. So, haven't heard anything else. I don't know. Didn't listen to any post-game interviews or nothing. So I don't know if somebody might be hurt. Maybe they are. Very, very frustrating. Let me see what my man G's got to say. He says, man, we had to run tempo and run the ball and stop the run. Banks, no pressure again. 4-5 max on the D-line. Again, no adjustment. I hope we don't retain Banks next season. Yeah, that's that. I've definitely heard some of that, and I'm kind of feeling like that. The only thing about that is Coach Banks does a good job for the most part, and I don't want to say that we are a for the most part type of a team whenever it comes to anybody. I feel like you've got to perform all the time. Before these past few games, I don't know what his game plans have necessarily been. It just cannot be we're going to shut down one part of an offense or one person from an offense and just neglect everything else. That's inexcusable. And, I didn't say that, I don't think live, but that was concerning to me as I kind of started to see that. Like, you should be able to stop one person or stop one phase of the game and not get killed somewhere else. Like that's like, rec ball, elementary school ball, you know what I mean? Like middle school ball, that's where that kind of stuff happens. That should not happen in college in the SEC when you've got these great athletes, okay? We are still building. This team's going to be so much better next season. We're going to have people coming back, but the team's going to be a lot better next season. We're going to have more depth, but at the same time, we've got enough pieces for that not to be an issue. Kind of felt like that was an issue today. I'm going to get to some more of these chats. Nolan Sanders says, seems like every year we slip up in the worst spots. We got to get over the hump. Last time the Vols won the SEC was before I was born. Wow, man. So, Nolan, I'm so sorry to hear that. So you didn't get to see Tennessee at its peak. But, Nolan, I can say to you, I grew up watching the former era of Tennessee back in the 90s when we always went to the SEC championship and, we always won it. It was like between us and Florida almost every single year. Whoever won that game was, that was like that was like the best team in the entire country. And we are, I wouldn't say that we're a far cry away from that right now because this team, we still have the pieces. I do just think that Heupel has got to, there's a couple of things he's going to have to get fixed. I love Coach Heupel. I think we only scored 7 points today. No, this might be I don't know if he's ever not scored more than 7 points as a coach, period. So a lot of that did have to do with the defense not being able to get off the field. So, maybe Coach Banks is a guy that we kind of look at. I don't know what's going on with that secondary. I don't feel like they were a big part of the reason. I really just feel like it was our linebackers. Herring played terrible. Aaron Beasley played terrible. Jeremiah Telander didn't look good out there either. He looked like a freshman tonight. So, but that's okay. I feel like that's okay from him. I'm not too upset about him. I mean, he is a freshman. He's going to be fine. He's going to get better. Good news there too is if Kenyon Pilley can come back, I would say at this point he's not going to come back this season, right? So we kind of talked about it. If Georgia loses and if we win, things kind of line up. Maybe he makes a push to come back this season. But now that that he's not really playing for much of anything, I don't know if he will come back. That's completely up to him. He is an older guy. He's got a family. He's married and all that good stuff. So he's got to do his best for his family. And I'm all on board for that. I'm happy that he came here, even though we only got to see him in one game. But if he could come back next season, that would be great because we're going to have a very young linebacking core. He is a veteran that can help this team out tremendously. He has a lot to offer to this team, and that'd be great. Again, I think that everyone at this point is probably going to be coming back. Cooper Mays is not going to be drafted very highly, and I love Coop, but after what he did today, he's not going to be drafted highly. Nobody on that offensive line. I think that Spraggs was the highest rated offensive lineman that we had. I think he might have been the highest rated player that we have on offense right now. Maybe Jalen Wright might have been higher than him. Jalen Wright might be gone. But anyone on that front, they've all got to come back. Let me get back to some of these. Let me get back to some of these chats. Let me get back. All right, so Oddspot says LSU won easily. Oh, okay, all right. So I'm sorry about that, y'all. I did not. Again, I'm coming home from my nephew championship game, and I'm almost in like autopilot mode. So a lot of the stuff that they were saying, I'm really not fully hearing it because I'm thinking about Tennessee. Even as my nephew, this is his birthday. Happy for him to go out there and win. And, he played well. His team played well. But still in the back of my mind, y'all know how it is. I'm thinking about Tennessee. So, Odd Spots also says Banks is okay. Yeah. I think that he's got to brush up on a couple of things. He's got to do better than what he has done in these past few games. But he's also had some really good games. So I wouldn't say necessarily that he needs to be fired. Now, G. White, my man G, saying his game plans almost always look the same on defense. UGA brought 7 all game. Yep, exactly, man. Last season, we brought the house every game and gave up yards and field goals, but it wasn't as bad as this. Yeah. Again, I'm going to have to go back and kind of see exactly what it was. I honestly, again, I know I keep on saying this, but I really feel like our linebackers just did not get into their run fits well at all. I feel like they fell for the window dressing. I felt like they weren't in the correct spots. That can kill you, dude, especially if you're playing nickel. You've only got 2 linebackers, right? So each of them has a gap that they have to maintain. And if they don't maintain it, and if they run the football in one of those gaps, that's a gashing play. So it's critical to have linebackers that can at least get into their run fits. And then, let your safeties come down and kind of clean it up if you have to. The upper echelon, the higher tiers can make a play even with blockers in that gap. You know what I'm saying? They can plug up that gap or, beat the blockers with speed and make a play. That's the separation. Our linebackers were nowhere to be found in those gaps. Those gaps were wide open. And that is a major problem. I don't know if that is on Coach Banks per se. I think that it always falls back on coaching because I feel like there's always more that you could have done to get these guys ready. But sometimes it does just fall on guys that have got to perform. They've got to play. I just don't feel like we played well today at all. Deborah says Shredder turned into Shredder. Yeah, that's a great way to say that. He says, she says, but we knew he was dangerous beforehand. Yes, absolutely. He's a very good player. He really, really is. But he hasn't been a game breaker up against, I don't think, any SEC team this entire season. He just hasn't because he's not necessarily – he shouldn't be the factor in us losing, especially with such a highly rated run defense. Again, I put that back on those linebackers. They played horrible. And, I don't think that the play calling was great necessarily. It felt like Mizzou kind of played deep the whole game. And, again, I don't feel like the offensive line did a good job either. I just feel like we kind of got whipped up front on both sides. And that's very embarrassing because we should have been manhandling this Missouri front. Gary Harper says, in Heupel's press conference, he was pissed as I've ever seen him with the team, rightfully so. He has no trust in Joe to run his real offense. I've been on the Joe train all season, but I'm off now. Yeah, man. So you know what, Gary? I have not heard Coach Heupel's press conference yet. But it's good to see that he was pissed, and he should be pissed. And I know that he's not just pissed with the other coaches on the staff and with the players, but I know that he's upset with himself. Because winners are going to be upset with themselves. Whenever you lose, you've got to look at yourself and say, what could I have done better to have helped us to win? At the end of the day, it's really just all about winning. So, whatever it is, I definitely expect for us to come back with a vengeance. And, Georgia's probably going to come in Knoxville. I don't think that they're going to sleep on us. Kirby's not going to let them sleep on us. But, hopefully we can at least win out these last two games and then go out and win whatever bowl game we get. Hope it's not the Citrus Bowl. Spurrier said that you can't spell citrus without UT. And that right there should pisses me off. And G says, nope, he hasn't. This was the low. Yep, this was the lowest for sure. Deborah says, no, this was the lowest scoring game for Heupel. Yep, that is embarrassing. Everyone should be ashamed. Nolan Sanders says, it seems kind of odd that the defense seemed to implode following the injury to Haddon. Very interesting. Yeah, that is very interesting. But, I also think that kind of speaks to what Haddon brought to this defense. Obviously, this is not nothing about like tooting our own horn or nothing like that, but we did say that Haddon is a big part of this defense. If you look at a defense, right, whenever you can put someone anywhere that hey, this is a shutdown guy, whether it doesn't matter where they are, anywhere. If you've got a shutdown guy, that's big. And I feel like it's amplified on the outside in a game that has turned into it's a very pass-happy, very pass-heavy game. This is an offensive game now. So having a guy like Haddon who teams kept on trying. They kept on wanting to go to him. And, he's done a phenomenal job of shutting it down. You can do a lot more with your defense whenever hey, we can, if this team wants to put one wide receiver on this side, we can put Haddon over there. He's going to be fine. We don't need to put help over the top. We don't have to play, different coverages. We can blitz. We can do a whole lot of different things. You can do way more whenever you've got a guy like that. Haddon was by far our best cover guy. I mean, by far, and we're seeing that now. There was also some plays, man. I was playing cover 2. I don't know what the Nico Slaughter was doing. I have no idea what he was doing. There were some times when it looked like he didn't know what the call was. Everyone else is playing cover 3, which is a deep zone. He's playing cover 2. You can't be playing if you're a corner, you're one of the 3 deep guys in cover 3. He's playing cover 2. And that means that there was one guy, there was one side of the field that is deep and it's wide open. And Mizzou found it on that play. So that's just one play that I can think of off the top of my head. Stuff like that, how does that happen? I have no idea. That is elementary school stuff. I guess sometimes it can happen. Maybe you didn't get the sign or the signal. But I feel like if you don't get it and you're playing on the outside, rather than playing a lower, like short zone, like cover 2 as a cornerback, you need to automatically be playing a deep zone. I would much rather you be wrong at playing deep so that you can come up and make a play than being wrong and letting the ball go over your head. A lot of that stuff was going on today. I have no idea what's going on with this team. I honestly don't. Very, very, very frustrating. Let's see what else we got here. Gary Harper says, saw that Arion Carter is out for the season 2 shoulder surgery. Oh, man, that hurts. That hurts bad. Yeah, so I did hear Austin Price, I want to say, earlier in this week. He was like, yeah, Arion Carter's not going to be playing this week too. And he said it kind of quick. So I was like, oh, he must have something kind of serious for him to say it like that. But dang, for him to be out for the season, that really, really hurts. Good news, though, is that he's having a surgery. And, hopefully Hopefully he can get back by like spring ball and, he can get those reps in because we're definitely going to need him next season. We're going to be very, very young at linebacker. And I really like Jeremiah T-Lander. He's a good player. Don't know what happened to him today. I don't know what happened to a lot of people today. I feel like Herring is going to, hopefully he can get it together. He looked horrible today. Deborah says, pretty sure Volquest said Peely is coming back. Okay. Oh, well, good. So, that'll be good for us, for the rest of this season, because obviously we do want to win out. I would honestly, at this point, I would most definitely would rather have him back next year because I want to win championships. Like I'm happy for us to win and go to good bowl games and all that good stuff, but I'm much more about championships. Like that's what really matters to me for this team. I want us to be good, obviously, but I want us to be championship good. So I feel like we would have a great opportunity with everyone. Again, everyone's got to come back. I don't think anyone can go. If he could come back, that would be great next season. But if he's coming back for this season, for sure, I feel like our linebacking core is going to step up a lot. I cannot wait to get into the film to see what Aaron Beasley was doing today. I think this is the worst game that he's had for sure in the past 2 seasons. He played absolutely horrible. All right, let's see what Superman G's got to say. It says, true man, just pains me this Mizzou team beat MTSU by 4 points. Rushing offense ranked 78th. And he says, ouch, yeah. That's tough. Then G also says, if you add more to the D-line, those gaps are less. Since we got our linemen beat up and banged up. Yeah, very frustrating. Gary Harper says, Hal Banks didn't put a spy on Cook at all after letting him burn us with his legs in 3rd and long. Kills me. Yeah. Yeah. You know what? This is something else. I know that this was one of the keys to the game, or, this is something that I had talked about. It might not have been a key to the game, but we did not do a good job in our pass rush lanes by any means. I know that getting pressure on Brady Cook was probably more at the emphasis this week because, he's not a guy that you necessarily are terrified that he's going to kill you with his legs, but we know that he's capable. We knew that coming into this game. It just seems like every quarterback looks so good up against our defense every single year. And, before everyone starts jumping on the let's fire Tim Banks, it could be so much worse. That defense could be so much worse. And that's the tough part. That's the tough part. Today, we just lost because we didn't do those small things right. And, I feel like we could have been able to not do those small things right, especially early on. I felt so confident that we was going to come back. When if we got down early, I was like, man, we're going to come back. Not too concerned about it. But we didn't because we just continue to not have good fundamentals. It is very frustrating to play football without good fundamentals, especially in college, especially in SEC, especially at Tennessee. It's sickening. Deborah says Jackson Ross was a baller tonight, but we couldn't even stop Mizzou starting at the freaking 1-yard line. That is embarrassing. Gosh, that's embarrassing. 2 games this season that we absolutely, without a doubt, should have won. Not coulda, woulda, shoulda. We were better than 2 teams that we lost to this season. Bama, we came out and we played well in that first half. Second half, I feel like we got outcoached in that second half. I feel like Bama switched some things up. We didn't switch it back. That's one thing that I will say about Tim Banks is that he does not adjust well at halftime. If teams kind of switch up what they do, he doesn't do a good job of matching it. I've seen that a little bit from Heupel, but I've also seen Heupel be able to, come out in the second half and do a better job, have a more productive offense than what he had in that first half. So I don't know what you do. I would not say by any means just yet that it's time to fire Coach Banks. I honestly wouldn't. And you know what, guys? This is going to sound crazy. I know that we're all hurting right now, but this could be such a blessing for us right now because Coach Banks, definitely could have been a guy that was going to be targeted by some teams as a head coach or, something. You know what I'm saying? Like he's probably was a guy that the other teams were going to be looking at. They might still be looking at him. Is it gonna be more of a lateral move at this point, or is he gonna be able to upgrade? Maybe, but I would say that after a game like this, and then after Florida, if you look at what happened at Bama, probably. I mean, I don't know. We might have him for one more year. Again, I'm going to keep on saying this, but our team, we're going to have a lot of people coming back, a lot of veterans. We got a lot of studs coming in, a whole lot of young guys coming in next season too. And Nico is different. Nico is different. Like Nico is, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but Nico's special. Nico is a generational type of special. He's a he's like an all-time great potential type of a different type of a special. So, getting these older guys back, getting these veterans back, and having these younger guys coming in, right, who can give us some depth. Some of these guys probably can start. They can learn from these older guys. We keep our coaching staff intact. And, I think that our team could be so deadly next season. Just like ridiculously deadly. And that's hard. That's a hard pill for me to swallow because I'm not next year type of a guy. I'm a right now, this year type of guy. This year for me was going to be our year. Last year, once we started to, once I saw what that offense was going to be, it's like, yeah, this is our year. I'm already tired of saying that. I'm not tired to the point where I feel like people need to necessarily get fired because I do feel like we've performed relatively well. We just got to get a few things cleaned up. Saying all that just to say, there is a bright light at the end of this tunnel, and we're going to have to keep on pushing, man. We're going to have to just kind of stay the course, and we're going to have to be patient as a fan base. We don't want to run anybody off, especially some of these guys that are good coaches. Let's get to some more of these. So G says this was more about us than how good Mizzou is. Yeah, I mean, Missouri is not a good team. I mean, they're honestly. I mean, they are. I mean, you know what? I'm not gonna say that they're not a good team. They are a good team. They're not as bad as Florida is, but they're definitely not. They definitely should not have beat us. I'll just say that we definitely should have won this game by a way more, like by a lot. VFL Willis says, "Do you think Herring looks slow at linebacker?" Yeah, I always think Herring looks slow at linebacker. So I think that he was a defensive end coming out of high school, and he looked like one today. He looked like a defensive end playing linebacker. So, I don't know, man. He's gonna have to do something, dude. And I don't even necessarily think that it was so much his skill level that concerns me. It's like his mental level of being able to understand what play is coming and understanding how to stop that. That is the more frustrating part. Because I'll just tell you, honestly, just, me. Give me a guy who may not be as talented, but is going to play hard and that knows where to be. And is going to, give his all in that spot. I'd much rather take that over a guy that's super talented and is all over the daggone place or has no idea what he's doing. And, I feel like Elijah Herring is somewhere right in between all of that. He does have talent. He's definitely not if I could grade him from, like on an A to F scale, I would give him like a C. He's from like a D to like a C plus. I feel like it's probably, maybe a B minus might be what his ceiling is as a linebacker, but he's not ever probably going to be, like a really higher level linebacker. That's just not who he is. Yeah, I mean, so he's probably a guy that will end up at some point getting passed up. We've got some good guys coming in. We've already seen our freshmen and they look good. And we've got a few more guys coming in this next class that look really good too. So, I'm not wishing that on him or on anyone. I hope that they can all continue to get better and play well, but I just don't see that from him. I've seen too much of you're either too slow physically or you're too slow to see what's going on and too slow to get there from that perspective. So that's very, very frustrating to me. G also says, ever see Saban go off on his DCs when they don't have enough pressure? Pure Satan. And then they add more, even spy times. Why can't we do that? Yeah, that's a good question. Saban is different. I feel like Coach Saban and Coach Heupel, I feel like they are the same guys from a wanting to win perspective, from a hating to lose perspective. I think that they're both dogs in that sense. I just think that they kind of go about getting there differently. And I mean, Saban has toned down so much since he's gotten older. He's not like how he used to be. He was very fiery a lot earlier on. And yeah, I mean, that's just not who Heupel is. I guess I could probably say I would like to see a little bit more from him. But that's not who he is. And he might be kind of chewing these guys out behind the scenes whenever we can't see. I can see that from Coach Heupel. I've had some coaches that were, kind of like more laid back, and especially like with the media and stuff, they're very very even killed. But when it's just the team, they will lay into you, and I think that Heupel is one of those guys. So I feel fine with the coaching staff right now. I do. I just think we've got to adjust. I mean, hey, coaches got to get better too. This is definitely a sign that our coaches definitely need to start to get better. And Gary Harper says right here, our defense is actually much better in every stat line this year. I like Banks and the scheme, but everyone on the defensive staff except Rodney Garner should be on the hot seat. Yeah, I'm looking at Coach BJ, our linebackers coach, and yeah, I'm looking at him after this game. Whenever one position group on its own and as a whole does a bad job, you have to look at the coach, and you got to look at their coach first and say, okay, well, what the hell are you doing? And then maybe you look at the scheme. Again, I have not watched the film, and even with the angles that I get, it's still I'm not going to know everything, but I will have a much better idea than what I have right now on if it is they're not getting coached right, or if it's something in our scheme that's messing up. But I can tell you for sure that there was several plays that just from watching it live, guys were not in the correct spot. And I'm talking about linebackers. We're not filling gaps right at all. And that, that goes to coaching, but it also goes to those players. And then G also says Nico looks good enough to pass our way into a rushing game in a game. Joe, sadly, no. Okay. He looks good enough to pass our way into a rushing game in a game. Okay. I think I know what you're saying right there, G. Yeah. I mean, listen, Nico's different from what Joe is, but this is not Nico's time right now, and especially at this point. We're not really playing for anything. Joe Milton came back and gave this team a whole lot, honestly speaking, because he didn't necessarily have to come back. He maybe could have transferred. I'm not sure. He could have done something else, but he decided to stick it out here. And I feel like he's been a really good sport. And again, I don't necessarily feel like just at the first glance that this game is on Joe Milton. So with all that being said, I feel like, we should just definitely let Joe Milton finish it out, but maybe kind of get Nico in there some more, maybe give him some packages if we can. But, I hope the best for Joe Milton. I hope that he can prove to the NFL scouts that he has what it takes to go to that next level, because I do feel like he has earned that. He's played really, really hard for this team. So, I do want to be loyal to him in that sense, especially because we're not playing for any championships. We're playing for the best bowl that we can get, kind of playing for pride at this point. So no need to pull him in. And G, I don't think that that's what you're saying here, but I just wanted to get that off my chest. Like, I don't think that we need to be trying to bench Joe Milton at this point. So Oddspot says Nico's like 6'6", Bryce Young if he hits. Dude, I think that's a great way to kind of dice it up, because Bryce Young was such a good football player. Such a good, I mean, again, Bryce Young was a football player. Nico is a football player. He's a baller. He's not the type of guy that you have to worry about in any big situations. I don't care who we're playing up against. He's a guy that you trust. And we haven't seen him play a whole lot of college football, but sometimes you can just tell, right? He's just got that it factor. He's a guy that I would trust and feel confident and comfortable in like a game-winning drive situation. I think that he could go down as for sure one of the best quarterbacks at this university, and maybe one of the best college quarterbacks ever, and possibly way on down the road. He has the potential right now. I'm not saying that he is, but he has the potential. He's got that ceiling where he could be one of the best football players ever. That's what Nico is. He's very, very, very different for sure. Let's see here. VFL Willie says their back killed him in the swing passes. Yeah, if you're talking about Schrader, yeah. Yeah. This was a game that P and I did kind of talk about. Cover 2 would have been a great coverage to play up against this team. A lot of what they like to do is like you can play cover 2 and you can shut down most of it. And if you want to get kind of funky with it, you could kind of, knowing what they're going to do if you're showing cover 2, kind of pull somebody out or have like a cornerback kind of sink. Like if they want to hit like a sail route in between the safety who's playing that, deep half and the cornerback that's playing that, low flat area in cover 2, if they want to hit in between where my hands are, have the corner kind of sink on that and be able to pick it off. It's things like that you can most definitely do, especially with the way that our pass rush was getting home early on. I haven't seen a whole lot of that out of Coach Banks, but we did have that interception early on, and that was one of those situations. That was a situation where it looked like we kind of had like a robber look. Again, I had to go back and watch it, but so that's why I'm not too ready to just say let's fire Coach Banks. But yeah, sometimes teams just kind of get you. I feel like in this game, the game plan was just to stop them from beating us deep, make them drive the football field. And I feel like that could have worked, but the offense didn't look good. We couldn't run that football. We just played a terrible game, guys. That's just what it all boils down to. Shadowless Pokemon Dom says this year is so bad because of how good we can be and what is put on the field. This team should have won in all 3 of the losses. Yeah, I mean, I would say that the Alabama game is probably the only one that I can personally look to and say, well, we came out and played very well in that first half. In the second half, it felt like we got out-coached. We kind of got manhandled. Yeah, I mean, there was plenty of, I feel like the referees were terrible in that game. And that made a big difference in that game. But, I don't necessarily like the narrative of, our defensive line is getting held. Even though they were, defensive linemen are going to get held on every single play. And that's why them getting sacks is such a big deal, because you've got to be able to beat people holding you. Man, it's just golly. I think that there are some guys that just need to go. I feel like that there is a softness that kind of comes out with some of these older guys, and we've got to get rid of some of those players because that permeates throughout the entire locker room. We cannot have a team with anything less than a bunch of dogs if we want to be champions. Deborah says maybe we see Nico against Georgia if they're killing us, but if we have another game like tonight, we should let Nico play the whole Vandy game. Hypo said he was disappointed with how our team played. Yeah. So Deborah, I think that is a good point. I would like to say that I don't see us getting killed by Georgia, but I saw us killing Missouri today. You know what I mean? Like I really did. And I feel like that's a team that we should have killed. I'm still going to say that this team's going to bounce back. And, I know that Heupel is pissed off and the whole coaching staff. I think everyone's pissed off. Whenever you lose like this as a team, you're going to – that sticks in your craw, and you're going to want to come out and perform a lot better in the following game. So I do think that we're going to play well next game. And, it would be nice to kind of see Nico in some situations up against some of these teams. But I don't think that we're going to see him unless it's up against Vandy. And I don't want to see him unless it's up against Vandy or unless we're killing somebody, like unless we're blowing somebody out. I guess Georgia, because Georgia will be the only other team besides Vandy that we have left. If we're blowing Georgia out, then yeah, bring in Nico. But I don't even want to see him necessarily, even if we're getting killed by Georgia. I don't even want to think about us getting killed by Georgia. That kind of makes me sick. that runs all through me. Gary Harper says, Willie Martinez definitely gone. He's the only coach that didn't get an extension. So many blown coverages in the secondary this year. Yeah. So, I've never been a big Willie Martinez fan, in all honesty. I do feel like the secondary played a lot better this season. Again, we talked about Haddon earlier in the show, and, I feel like a lot of that was because of Haddon. I feel like we were kind of able to scheme up a whole lot of different things because we had one guy that we knew was a shutdown corner in man and in zone. And we do have some younger guys that are coming up. That's the one thing about Willie Martinez is that he will go out and get some good players. He just can't coach them once they get here, right? So, it's almost like a double-edged sword. Can we find a guy that can find some people? Do you want to find a guy that can find them and can't coach them, or a guy that, can't necessarily find them but can coach them? It's all about production. You know what I mean? Where does that come from in those two different, phases? But I don't know, man. Maybe he is gone. I don't know how much of a difference that's necessarily going to make. Who do we go out and get? And I don't want for that to be a reason that we hold on to folks because we're worried about who we're going to go out and get. But you do have to think that. The grass is not always greener. It's just not. I think that for the most part, we've played solid. I don't think that, and again, I'm not a big Willie Martinez fan. I was a guy that said before the season started that this was probably going to be his last season. And I was waiting for any reason to say, hey, he needs to get fired. But after the way that I feel like our secondary has played, I think that the technique has been pretty solid. It hasn't been terrible. I don't see, I feel like guys are playing with solid fundamentals, not just in coverage, but also in coming up and making tackles and things like that. I feel like we're physical enough. I think that today the coverage bust was more based off of Missouri finding the holes in our defense. And some of those were busts. But I think that the busts probably are more on individual players. We talked about Slaughter earlier in this segment. And, things like that you can't really put on a coach. Because if everyone else is doing the correct thing and one person does wrong, that's on that one person, right? So I think that we've got to get some better guys and some guys that, aren't going to have brain farts. You know what I mean? You've got to be focused. You've got to be dialed in. VFL Willis says, can we get up and play Georgia tough? I think so. I fully expect, especially because that's going to be a home game, right? So, we all know that this team does a lot better at home than we do on the road. And, I expect for Vol fans to come and show out in that game, right? We've got to get some payback from last season. And I'll just tell you all this from living in Georgia. Excuse me. Georgia, they hate Florida. They hate Auburn. They're terrified of Alabama. But I think that they hate Tennessee more than anybody else. They hate Tennessee. So if for no other reason than just pride, I want us to go out there and just give our all up against Georgia. And I think that we can do it. I still think that this team has a good chance up against Georgia. We've got to get a lot of stuff fixed. We've just played terrible today. This is not who we are. Don't take this game and think that this is who we are. It's not. This was just, like that Florida game. We played two horrible games this season, two horrible games, and then one really bad half. And you can really even look at that Austin Peay game. We didn't play great in that game either. Excuse me. Me Drinker says the defense did not scheme for Schrader. He set some sort of record against us. Of course, man. See, that's the kind of stuff that makes you sick. Because, again, Schrader is an older guy, and he is a very good player. He plays hard. And he does a great job. He's a good running back. He really is. He's a very, very solid running back. Is he going to get drafted in the NFL? Probably not. He just doesn't have the measurables for it. But he plays hard, and I think that he will get signed to somebody's practice squad. And he's going to be a guy that, hopefully, I'm hoping for him. Even coming off of this loss, I still wish the best for these guys individually. Hopefully for him, he can get to a point where he can make someone's practice squad or something, and he's one of those guys that's kind of lingers, and he can play for quite some time. But, yeah, so he's good in that sense. But, yeah, our game plan was we feel like we can stop the run. We feel like we can come up and tackle. We're not going to let them big play us to death. And, that's like whenever we were stopping, what's his name, Davis. It was like, hey, we're not going to let Davis beat us. So everything else works. That's the same thing today. We're not going to let Mizzou beat us deep. We're not going to give up big plays. So everything else works. That's not, we've got to do a lot better than that. That's embarrassing. Cayman Mickler says we struggled in the ground game in all three losses. Yes, we did. Yeah, I mean, well, that's one thing, Cayman, and that's an excellent point. But that is one thing that I can tell you, and I feel like we kind of all know that. Number one thing in football is you've got to be able to run the football and you've got to be able to stop the run before you can do anything else. You've got to be able to do those two things. If you can't do those two things, you're not going to have a very good team. You're not going to have a very good day. And we didn't do a good job of either one of those things. So that's a recipe for disaster. And that's why we got embarrassed. We got embarrassed at 3:30 on CBS in front of the entire country. That's why that happened. And then Kevin also says Wright wasn't himself today. No, he was not. This is the worst game that he's played in a very, very, very long time, maybe since he's been at Tennessee. Deborah says, I only said if Georgia killing us because they have 52 on Ole Miss. Like, dang, 52-17, yeah. Wow, man. Yeah, so, I'm sorry about that, Deborah. I definitely wasn't trying to call you out by any means. I understood what you were saying. I was just talking about, like, how I'm looking at Georgia personally. I don't even want to think about it. But, yeah, that is a good point. And dang, if they killed Ole Miss like that, they've got a good team. I mean, they've definitely got a good team. And the SEC is not going to do us any favors at this point. The SEC is going to make sure that Georgia has every single opportunity to win this game and to look good doing it because they want someone to get into the playoffs and they want as many opportunities as possible. We all can understand that. So, I mean, that's going to be a very, very, very tough game. But, yeah, sorry about that, Deborah. I definitely was not calling you out. Kevin also says, I'm from Georgia, too. I always want this one bad. Yeah, I feel you, Kevin, man. I mean, this is I hate Georgia. I just hate them. Glowman Mike says Mizzou's motto was 4 quarters of hell. Yep, that's what it felt like. It felt like 4 quarters of hell for us. And then G says if Schroeder is a future Rudy practice dummy, amazing what he did to us today. Yeah. So yeah, and I feel what you're saying right there, G. Excuse me. Yeah, I definitely feel what you're saying right there, G. And I wasn't taking a shot at Schrader by any means. I just don't think that whenever you look at running backs for the NFL, he does not have the size. He doesn't have the size. He's not going to have that speed. But he is a very, very tough player. He's a very good player. And that's all that I was saying. He's a guy that will get overlooked, but somebody's going to see that and they're going to take a chance on him kind of like late. And he's going to be a guy that's going to linger because he is a good player. He's going to play well in the NFL. He can play with those guys, but you know how they are. They're all about the measurables and all that good stuff. So I don't know, man. You know what? I think that Jalen Wright does try to go to the NFL. It's kind of talking about that. I don't know how high he goes. He could even be a guy that will come back next season. I'm very curious to see what this coaching staff does at this point, because I think that now we're probably going to have more guys that are going to want to come back, and the coaches will have a little bit more leverage to be able to say, hey, y'all can't come back. But I promise you, there are some guys that can come back that the coaches do not want back because we just don't have room for them. We've got better guys coming in, and we've got to make room for those scholarship players, and we can't have guys holding up scholarship, especially these older ones, because why would you want to stay as, a red, 5th, 6th year senior if we've got younger guys that are going to play over you and you're not even going to get a chance to play? So I think we've got some guys like that. And, that transfer portal is going to be our best friend. G says, yeah, me neither. I think him being short, we just never got down low on him. Yeah, I mean, you know what? That's the thing too, honestly speaking. With running backs, a lot of times being a little bit shorter in stature actually can kind of play to your benefit because it does make you harder to tackle. It makes you harder to see too. Those offensive linemen are really, really big. They're really tall. And sometimes it's kind of hard for those linebackers and safeties and everyone else to be able to find where those running backs are. They can kind of hide behind them. And you've got a very good, center of gravity. So, yeah, I mean, I wish him all the best. I don't have any ill will towards Mizzou. I don't hate those guys like I hate Georgia. And they were just the better team today. That's just what it is. Sometimes that's just going to happen. But we've got to figure out why that has happened to us a couple of times this season, that we have allowed for teams that we're clearly better than to be the better team than us. I don't care where it is. if it's at their home, our home, if it's on Mars. I don't care. Like, if we're the better team, we've got to start imposing our will wherever we go. And until we can do that, we're not going to be a championship team. So hopefully we can do that next year. But appreciate everyone for tuning in. I definitely did not plan on going this long, man. We've almost been in here for an hour. I thought this was going to be like a 10-minute, like a 10, 15-minute video. Let me see what Deborah has to say before we get out of here. Deborah says, did you hear Mizzou's coach right after the game boast to a reporter, we kicked their ass? Oh, wow. Yeah, classy. Clear they were up for a revenge game. Yeah, I mean, listen, that guy's a nerd, okay? He's a nerd. And they gave us all that we could handle today. I mean, they did everything that they could to win this game. I think that they circled this one. This is the game they wanted probably more than any other game. But guess what? If we get to play them again next season, guess what's about to happen? Hype was going to be running up like he has done, the past couple of years. That's definitely coming. This was a fluke. This game and that Florida game, those two games were flukes. That Alabama game, kind of a toss-up. A couple things could have gone our way, but they didn't. But I would say that that's a game that we lost. This one we did lose, but this was more of a fluky loss. I mean, our team is a lot better than this. I'm gonna get to so Cayman right here says, thanks, great show. Thanks so much, Cayman. And Glowman Mike says, revenge for last year's touchdown with 30 seconds left. Yeah. It's all good. It's all good. We're gonna finish this season strong, and hopefully we can win out. That's the goal here. We're gonna go ahead and start looking forward to the Georgia week. Like I said, I'm gonna watch the film, and I'll probably put a video out on what happened in this game. And then from there, we're just going to go ahead and turn the page and start focusing on Georgia. So appreciate everybody. I hope that, everyone feels better. I feel terrible. So hopefully y'all will feel better tomorrow, man. Whoever y'all's NFL teams are, I hope that they win. Hope they have a lot of success. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. And then G right here. I'm going to let you get the last one right here, G. He says, great show, Bull. Now I might be able to sleep. Sounds good, G. I am going to, do my. I'm going to do this thing and probably try to sleep. Yeah, I said the G was going to be the last one, but Glowing Mike will be first time watcher. You're cool. I subscribe. Thank you so much. And then Deborah says, "Have a good night, Deborah. You are the last one." All right, man. Hey, love y'all, man. Appreciate it. I'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace.